Okay, so we're talking AI agent services today,
Yeah.
specifically for those of you out there building those services for businesses. But, and this is key, without needing to get into the weeds of actually writing lines and lines of code.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole exciting frontier here, right? It's about empowering those innovators and problem solvers to build without code.
Exactly. So the big question we're tackling today is this. Is the combo of N8N.io, Anthropic's Claude 3.7, and something called the Model Context Protocol, MCP for short, is that like the ultimate state-of-the-art, the best practice setup, specifically when we're thinking about those AI agent services for small and medium-sized businesses, your SMBs?
It's a really relevant question.
It really is. And we've got a report here that dives deep into this tech stack. What we're going to do today is really pull out those insights that matter most to you. No code needed to understand this, promise.
No code needed, just practical takeaways.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. First up, a foundational piece of many no-code, low-code AI agent setups, N8N.io.
So N8N.io, at its core, is an open-source workflow automation platform. And the thing that stands out right away, especially for our audience today, is the interface. It's all visual, node-based.
Like a digital workbench.
Yeah, exactly. It's where you connect those pre-built tools, those nodes, to automate these processes. And it's built on this low-code, no-code idea. So it's incredibly accessible for, professionals who might not have, like, a super deep programming background.
Right. And everything revolves around these workflows, which are just basically sequences of these nodes all interconnected. Each node is doing a specific task, and you visually link them together to manage the flow of data, automate these complex operations. And there are just a ton of integrations already built in, which is huge, like over 400. So that means connecting to all sorts of popular business tools that your SMB clients are probably already using, right out of the box.
And speaking of those SMBs, when it comes to deployment, N8N.io offers some real flexibility. You can self-host it, so you're in control of your data, that sensitive client data, which, that's a big win for privacy-conscious businesses. Or if you want that easier setup and management, they've got a cloud-hosted option too.
And this is where it gets really interesting, especially if you're thinking AI agents, because N8N.io, it has this deep integration with LangChain.
Which is a game changer.
Right. For those of you who live and breathe AI, LangChain is like this essential framework, like a toolkit packed with really powerful components for building these sophisticated AI applications driven by large language models.
And N8N.io has this dedicated AI agent node, so you can visually assemble those LangChain components. It's like you're getting all the advanced capabilities of LangChain without needing to write all that complex Python code.
It's powerful stuff. And even though that visual interface is great for building fast, sometimes you need more, like fine-grained control,
Totally. And N8N.io gets that. They've got a built-in JavaScript editor, so when you need to implement their really specific custom logic, you can. Plus, you've got Git integration, which is great for version control, managing different versions of your workflows, collaborating with teams, all that good stuff. Oh, and let's not forget about those workflow templates. Ready to go, pre-built solutions for all sorts of AI use cases that SMBs are going to need.
It's like they've thought of everything. And for those of you providing services to SMBs, N8N.io really shines in terms of value. We talked about that self-hosting. That's great for data privacy. And being open source, it can save you a lot of money in the long run, which for SMBs, budget is always a concern, right?
Absolutely. And if you want to take N8N.io even further, there's the community-developed nodes. These are custom integrations, PNP plug and play, built and shared by the N8N community. It's like this whole ecosystem of possibilities just opens up. You get connections to more AI models like the DeepSeek AI node, for example, and all these specialized services.
So that's great. But with all that community stuff, doesn't that also mean there's, some risk involved?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be smart about it. Those PNP nodes, they're not officially vetted by N8N, so reliability and maintenance, it can vary. You need to really evaluate those community-developed nodes before you use them for your clients.
For sure. And even though N8N.io has that visual interface, there's still a learning curve, right? You don't need to be a coding wizard, but it helps to understand, like, the basics of APIs, how data is structured. Especially if you're going to dive into those more advanced features or start working with LangChain. But the good news is there's tons of documentation, tutorials, a really supportive community.
Exactly. They make it pretty easy to get up to speed.
Okay, so N8N.io, that's our hub. Now let's talk about the brains behind these AI agents. Anthropic's Claude 3 model family.
The advancements with Claude 3 are just incredible. They've got this range of models, Haiku, Sonnet, Opus, all with different levels of capability. But for what we're talking about today, working with businesses, Claude 3.7 Sonnet, that's the one that stands out. It hits this sweet spot of high intelligence and processing speed. Plus, it's got these strong step-by-step reasoning capabilities, which is key for complex automation tasks.
And that context window, right? That's how much info the model can process at once. Pretty big from what I've heard.
Huge. It's a 200,000 token window to start. And they're talking about potentially expanding that to over 1 million tokens. So the model's got this massive amount of context to work with. Just to clarify, those tokens, they're like the basic units of text the model uses.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, for SMBs, cost is always a factor, right? How does Claude 3.7 Sonnet stack up there?
It's a good point. Anthropic prices their API based on the number of input and output tokens you use. They've got different subscription plans, too. But what makes Claude 3.7 Sonnet really appealing, especially for SMBs, is that the API pricing is designed to be more cost-effective than some of the other leading models out there, like GPT-4, especially when you consider how intelligent and fast it is. Plus, they've got discounts for processing large batches of data.
So you're getting that power without breaking the bank.
Right, which is a big deal when you're working with businesses, Their budgets aren't unlimited.
No, they definitely aren't. So to sum it up, you've got Claude 3.7 Sonnet with its intelligence and its competitive pricing. It sounds like a really solid option for SMB automation, especially when you need that sophisticated reasoning, but you have to stay within budget.
Totally. And to really illustrate this, think about some real-world uses for Claude 3.7 Sonnet in AI agents for SMBs. You could do things like advanced data processing for retrieval augmented generation, or RA. That's where the AI agent needs to search and pull info from these huge knowledge bases to give really good answers.
Makes sense. What else?
Well, in sales, think intelligent product recommendations or helping with sales forecasting. You could even use it to streamline tasks like code generation, quality control for outputs, even extracting text from images. And for customer interactions, imagine providing live support that understands those really nuanced questions or offering seamless language translations. Content moderation's another one, identifying harmful content.
Wow, the possibilities are endless.
Pretty much. And then for cost savings, think things like logistics optimization, better inventory management, and getting insights from all that unstructured data that companies have. Plus, it's great for creating really nuanced written content and generating structured output, like in JSON format, which is super useful for integrating with other systems.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got N8N.io as our platform and Claude 3.7 as the brains. Now, how does MCP, that Model Context Protocol, fit into all of this? What is it, and why should our listeners, these AI agent builders for SMBs, why should they care?
So MCP is like a universal connector for AI, Anthropic's Model Context Protocol. It simplifies and secures the connections between AI assistants like Claude and all those external data sources, the business applications, the development environments. It gives AI easy access to the information it needs to give really accurate, relevant responses.
So it's about making it easier for the AI to understand the context, to get the right info, to perform well. But how does it actually work?
It's a client-server setup. You've got these MCP servers that expose data from different sources securely. Then the MCP clients, your AI agents, the ones you've built in N8N.io, they connect to those servers to grab the info they need. Anthropic has released the specs, the SDKs, even local server support in their Claude desktop app, and an open-source repository of these pre-built MCP servers. Interestingly enough, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is really good at building these MCP server implementations quickly. And there are already pre-built servers for things like Google Drive, Slack, GitHub, Postgres databases, even Puppeteer for web automation.
So companies are starting to use this.
Oh, yeah. Even companies like Block and Apollo are integrating MCP.
And the AI doesn't just get info, it can actually do stuff within those systems, right?
Exactly. It's two-way communication. So your AI applications become way more dynamic and interactive, and the benefits are huge for developers. Simpler development, better compatibility between tools, AI that understands context better, a flexible architecture that can scale, and it's model agnostic. So not just limited to Claude in the long run.
That's really cool. But the report did mention that this is a relatively new technology. So what does that mean for best practices right now? Is it a wait and see kind of thing?
That's the thing with new tech, right? MCP has a ton of potential, but it's still early days, especially when you think about SMBs. Widespread adoption, it takes time. For it to be a true best practice, we need a more mature ecosystem, more integrations that are readily available and well-tested.
So it could totally change how we connect Claude 3.7 with all those systems that SMBs use. Their CRMs, their email, their cloud storage, their databases. It could lead to these super smart, super effective AI agents, faster development. But for now, it's more about keeping an eye on it, maybe incorporating it into your strategy down the line. Not a guaranteed best practice just yet.
Exactly. It's all about looking ahead. And while we're talking about the broader picture, there's a whole landscape of low-code, no-code AI agent platforms out there.
Right. So many options to choose from. The report mentions a bunch. From the big names like VoiceFlow and Dialogflow, those are popular for conversational AI, to a whole slew of others. AppSmith, Cogniflow, Gumloop, Stack AI. It's a lot to keep track of.
And they all have their strengths. Some are great for specific tasks, web scraping, marketing automation, building internal tools. You even have open source frameworks like Crew AI, AutoGen, LangChain itself. But those usually need some coding knowledge to really get the most out of them.
And then you've got the platforms that have AI built in versus those that are more focused on workflow automation where you add the AI on top, connecting to external models.
Right. It's important to understand those differences when you're choosing a platform. Now, the report does recommend N8N.io quite a bit for building AI agents, specifically because of that integration with LangChain and how flexible it is. Platforms like Make and Zapier also get a lot of mentions. They're really versatile for workflow automation and can work with AI.
So N8N.io seems to be a favorite. And it sounds like those big language models like GPT, Gemini, Claude, they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, they're becoming essential.
What about trends? Anything we should be watching out for?
The report highlights a few key trends that are shaping this landscape. Things like the push towards no-code and low-code development, so making it even easier to build. Then there's the move towards handling more than just text, like images and audio, that's multimodal data. The ability to scale AI solutions as businesses grow, customization, that's becoming really important. And, of course, strong security.
So let's bring it all back to our listeners, those of you building AI agent services for SMBs. What are the pros and cons of this specific combo? N8N.io, Claude 3.7, and MCP.
Okay, let's start with the good stuff. N8N.io, it's super flexible, tons of integrations. Claude 3.7, it's got that cutting-edge AI, great reasoning skills. And MCP, while still early, it has the potential to make those integrations way easier. Then you've got the community nodes for N8N.io, adding even more functionality. The self-hosting option, that's a big win for data control. And the community, the N8N community, is really active and helpful.
So a lot to like there. What about the downsides? What should people be aware of?
Well, there might be a bit of a learning curve with N8N.io at first, especially if you're completely new to workflow automation. And since you're relying on community support for those PNP nodes, you got to be really careful. Vet them, make sure they're high quality and secure before you use them with clients. Then there's MCP. It's still early, so support and integrations might be limited for now. And of course, using the Claude 3.7 API, it costs money. So depending on what your clients need, that's something to factor in.
Okay, so it's not a perfect solution, but it's got a lot going for it. And it's interesting to see how this is all playing out in the real world. Does the report talk about any real-world use cases or expert opinions on this tech stack?
It's exciting to see the growing interest in N8N.io and models like Claude. People are using them to automate all sorts of business processes. You can check out the N8N.io website. They've got case studies that show how businesses have improved their workflows and become more efficient. Now, specific case studies using N8N.io with Claude 3.7 for SMBs, those might be a little harder to find right now. It's just because some of this tech is so new. But you can find a lot of discussion and examples online.
Oh, yeah. People are definitely talking about this stuff.
For sure. The N8N forums, Reddit, those are great places to see how people are using this tech. People are building these really cool AI agents, using large language models for data analysis, content generation, chatbots, all super relevant to SMBs. And a lot of experts are starting to see N8N.io as a top choice for AI agent development. That flexibility and the integration with LangChain, it really stands out.
So to wrap this up, what's the takeaway for our listeners? Those AI agent builders who don't write code, focusing on those SMBs, what should they do with all of this information?
So while N8N.io, Claude 3.7, and MCP look really promising, there's no one best practice that covers every situation. You've got to consider how mature MCP is and your own technical skills.
But it seems like N8N.io and Claude 3.7, they're a pretty solid bet.
Yeah, especially when you carefully choose those community nodes. They're becoming a really popular way to build those sophisticated AI solutions for SMBs. And as more people adopt MCP, it could become even more important for simplifying AI connections.
It's all about choosing the right tools.
Exactly. And being ready to adapt as the tech evolves. So here's what I would recommend. First, give N8N.io a shot. You get that flexibility, and the LangChain integration is really powerful. Just be aware of the learning curve and take advantage of all the support that's out there. Second, Claude 3.7. It's a great way to add advanced AI to your agents. Explore the different Claude 3 models. Find the one that works best for your client's needs. Third, be smart about those community nodes. Check them out. Make sure they're high quality and secure. Fourth, stay up to date on MCP. See how it develops and how it could make things easier for you down the road. And finally, remember, there are other platforms out there. Do your research, see what fits your skills and what your clients need. The most important thing is to be strategic.
That's great advice. So as you're building those AI agent services, for those SMBs, without writing any code, think about how you can use this technology to make a real impact. Think about your clients. What are their specific needs, and how can this tech help them? It's all about staying ahead of the curve. Go explore these platforms, experiment with them, see what they can do for you and your clients. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.